Hi and welcome to the Azam Shop channel. I'm your host Mohammad Azam with another screencast. Now this is the continuation of the sheep jump game that we have been implementing using the sprite kit. If this is a part number 3, so if you have not watched part number 1 and part number 2, then I highly recommend that you do so. So let's go ahead and run the application so that you will have an idea of what's going on. As you can see, we have the background over here and we have the foreground, and they're moving. They are basically a parallax background. They will move and they will rotate, and they will keep repeating itself, so it will give you an illusion that the sheep is actually moving, right? So in this particular screencast, what we are going to do is we are going to add some items to the background, like the sun or the clouds and all this stuff. And we are going to add some items to the foreground, like the tree or other stuff. And we're going to make sure also when we click or when we touch the screen, the sheep actually jumps. Okay. Now the sheep is not animating, which you can see. It's just static image. And in the next part, we're going to see how to animate the sheep. Now, we have already tagged our background with the background keyword and our foreground with the foreground keyword, so that it will be much easier for us to find it. Okay, so all we have to do is we have to say enumerate child nodes with name, and then we can simply say foreground, because foreground is the name, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to say sk sprite node, because foreground is actually a sk sprite node, and we are going to go ahead and get that node. Okay, and next we can say add tree to foreground, and we are going to pass in the foreground. Now this method doesn't really exist, right? So let's go ahead and create that. Add tree to foreground, sk sprite node, and this is foreground. Now basically all of these things will be pretty much like adding the moon, adding the tree, adding the flowers, or anything that you're adding will be pretty much a similar code. So I'm just going to copy paste some of it, and you will get an idea of what I'm talking about. So here it is. The image name that we're using is tree, and I've already added some of the images over here. Let me find tree. Can you see tree over here? Here we go. So here's the tree. So setup scenery is triggered. It's going to add it's going to call the add tree to foreground, which goes over there and simply adds the tree to the foreground. So let's go ahead and run this. And there we go. We can see the tree being added. Now the tree, since it's part of the foreground, it will automatically start repeating, right? And in the same way, you can add multiple things over here. So let's go ahead and add flowers to the foreground. So I'm just going to add some methods over here. Flowers, and then we have different methods for cloud and moon and all that. So I'm just going to copy paste some methods over here. Flowers to the foreground. So basically you're going to do the same thing. You're going to say over here add flowers to the foreground, and you're going to do this. Okay, same thing you can do with the background. So here we go. These are flowers. They are also, since they're part of the foreground, they will repeat. There's nothing in the background. We can use the same code and change this to background, because we have tagged our background with this particular keyword, which is a background string. And we can call add moon to the background and add clouds to the background. So add clouds. And the best part is that they will automatically start moving, start animating, start the parallax background. So here we can see and you can now see the difference that the foreground items are moving much faster than the background item, and this is how the real life works. As I explained, if you're sitting in a car and if you see the pavement, or if you see the road itself, the freeway, it's moving much more faster. But if you see at the distance, you can see the mountains, they're moving much slower because of the distance. All right. So now we have everything's running. One of the things missing is, of course, when I click, nothing really happens. The sheep doesn't really jump. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's see if we even have the touch event. So we don't have that. So let's go ahead and implement that. So we have the touches begin event. Okay. All right, let's see. So in this case, what we are trying to do is, whenever we touch it, we just want the sheep to jump. Okay. Is there any, let me go ahead to the main scene. And okay, so we do have the sheep over here. So we can say jump the sheep. Okay. Now this jumping of the sheep is basically done by the force. Okay, so you have to apply a force in order for the sheep to jump. Now let's go ahead and see where we have initialized the sheep. So here it is. We have initialized the sheep over here. Okay. In order for the sheep to jump effectively, it is a good idea to add some sort of, physics on the sheep. Okay. So this is just a sheep, like a sprite. So we can say over here, and Sprite Kit makes it very easy to add physics elements to your game. So we're going to say sk physics body, and then body with rectangle of size, and then we can say sheep dot size. Okay, and if you're doing different things like collision, then you can also set up it over here, but right now we are not really doing any collisions. That will be done in the future screencast. This is restitution. Okay, when the force affects, how will it actually behave? All right. And now it comes down to basically, so let's go ahead, the position of the sheep, let's go ahead and say, okay, the sheep position is 10. Let's see what happens. Okay, so it immediately went off. 50. You can see the restitution, I think it's playing something, huh? Oops. All right. Okay, so other things we need to do to initialize the physics world, the world that we are in. Okay, so we have to provide, first of all, the gravity. That's the first thing, and the next thing that we have to provide to our scene is that the boundaries, the physics, it has to be of a certain boundary. So we have to provide that also. So let me just copy it from the code that I am running, if I can find it. Set up the physics world. And once we get this thing working, you will see that you can easily create a physics world without any problem and have this thing running in no time. So here we go. So we have the physics world. The gravity is minus 0.9, and the body with edge loop rectangle is self.frame. So let's go ahead and run it now. And now you can see that it's not really going anywhere, right? Let's see where we are adding the sheep. I keep forgetting. Add sheep. Let's go ahead and add it to 60, and you can see it just falls, right? So let's go ahead and use 30 over here. And the next thing, what you want to do is you want to make sure that the sheep is jumping. Now the sheep will jump if you apply some force on it. Okay, so let's go ahead and say sheep, physics body, and then over here we have apply impulse, and then we have other stuff also going on. So we're going to say CG vector make. So what impulse do you want to apply at x-axis, which is nothing, and from y-axis we are applying 13. Here we go. So when I click now, we have the sheep jumping. That's pretty cool, right? So we in the next one, what we're going to do is we will animate the sheep so that its legs are moving when it's actually walking. And of course we need to remove this status bar because it doesn't really look good while you're playing the game. And then finally we will add some obstacles. We have a collision detection. We will also add some score. And here we go. We can do double jump, triple jump. So that's pretty cool, right? So that's pretty much it. If you need any consulting services, not for games only, but also for for if you want to create an app, then I'm available for small projects. I'm available for projects like the apps that I've done, like Vegetable Tree, business apps, or any kind of iOS apps. And you can email me at azamsharp@gmail.com. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about your project that you wanted to get done, and I will make sure that your project will get done. All right, for iOS projects, of course. That's pretty much it. Thank you very much for iOS projects, basically. And see you in the next video.